Welcome to Stage and Screen with me, Misha Bryan. My guest today is Stephen Puri, who is something of an entertainment industry unicorn, as he's one of the very few people on earth to have been a senior executive at 2 motion picture studios and to have raised over $20 million in venture capital. During his early film career, Stephen could be found producing digital effects for movies such as Godzilla, Braveheart, Carlito's Way and Independence Day, which won the Oscar for visual effects. He later went on to become Executive Vice President for Kurtzman Orsi at DreamWorks, who produced Transformers 1 and 2 and Star Trek 11, before swiftly moving on to become Vice President of Production at 20th Century Fox, where he oversaw the production of Die Hard 5, the Wolverine franchise, and the movie based on the series 24. Today, he is the CEO and founder of the Sukha company, whose mission is to help millions of people around the world achieve more, find their focus, and have a healthy work life. It sounds pretty good to me. Let's go and have a chat with him. Again, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate you taking the time. And let's dig straight into it. You are a very kind of techie person, right? Mm-hmm. And I understand that both your parents were like in the tech industries. Was that always a path that you were going to take?
You know, I didn't know. I know what you're referencing. Both my parents were engineers. My mom was a software engineer back mm-hmm. in the day, you know. My dad was a hardware engineer, so he designed like chips, like CPUs. Mm-hmm. And so when I was little, I knew how to code. You know, like if your parents, you know, are great volleyball players, you probably played volleyball when you were a kid, you know? Mm-hmm. So when I went to the University of Southern California, it was technically not the cinema TV school. You know, I was not on a film track. I was working part-time at IBM as a junior software engineer, making money for school. And pursuing like journalism and business and sort of a more traditional track, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And it was during that period of time that being in Los Angeles, having friends in the cinema TV school led me to understand, oh wow, film is becoming a digital medium. Like computers are being used to make the sound, to make the images, to edit the films, and there was a great demand for people who could speak creatively but also turn around and understand like the engineering of it. Mm-hmm. And I sat in that little intersection of the Venn diagram, which made me suddenly very valuable for no reason other than blind luck, you know? So that was kind of how I got into film, by being an engineer. Yeah, a lot of luck.
Well, yeah, you've got to kind of like be prepared and what's the saying? By kind of being prepared and being skilled at the same time, because it's not just being the complete luck. You can be in the right place but have no skills whatsoever, right?
That is true. You have to be, when luck knocks, you have to be prepared. Agreed.
Absolutely. So it's that beautiful crossover that you had. Now, did you? Am I right in saying that you had a scholarship to go and work at IBM?
I did. I was a Thomas J. Watson scholar. So mm-hmm. they funded part of my school, which was awesome. And it also guaranteed me a job if I wanted to make more money. They said, you have a guaranteed job as a junior software engineer, which could then turn into a software engineer once I left school. But by the time I left school, I was working in film. And, you know, film was so glamorous. It's just like, how could I give this up?
Absolutely. And I guess because of where you studied at USC, then did you make friends there that you later bumped into and met up with and perhaps collaborated with once you started to get into the movie industry as well?
You know, what's interesting is I wasn't in the cinema school. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that by the time I got into cinema that it was like, oh, these are all my friends all working. It was kind of rare to bump into a friend from school because most of my friends were in journalism or we're in the business school. Those are the people I spoke to every day. But there were always guys in the dorm that I knew, oh, he's a cinema student. I see him in the lunchroom, sort of thing. So mm-hmm. really when I got into digital film, it was doing digital visual effects, like CG effects for movies. and did about 14 films doing effects or titles and that sort of thing. And that gave me a great overview of all these different directors and how they worked and what their personalities were like.
Yeah.
And that got me super into okay, how could I be a producer or like a studio executive and help make whole films? And that became my graduating class. When I decided to make that transition, that was my peer group as we all rose up in film, production.
Okay, because I was wondering, because I know that obviously you started in the digital effects departments and everything, and how
Yep.
you managed to rise up all the way through. It's almost like, in my mind, it was like, oh, it's like a Forrest Gump career where he's done like lots of different things.
You're not wrong about that. There is a significant amount of luck for which I am very grateful. And like you said, when luck knocks, you have to have skills that will keep you in the room. But, sometimes if luck does not knock, you can be prepared and it just doesn't happen. I happen to have both. I was very lucky.
Yeah. When you first started working in the digital effects department, were you like, I'm having to start here, not making the tea, but kind of like on the lower rungs? And what kind of roles and what kind of things were you animating and doing the effects for at that stage?
Oh, so this was my first my first job in digital visual effects. You're going to laugh. I was the nighttime camera operator, which meant as all the effects artists were working away in their cubicles on their workstations making CG images, when they finished a shot, at 24 frames a second, maybe it's 96, maybe it's 100, 200 frames long, whatever, right? They would then ask me, hey, we have to take this back out to film from the computer in order to screen it in dailies for the director, right?
Okay.
So they would give me their digital files. Here it is. And I would sit there through the night until 4:30 in the morning, shooting them out one by one, frame by frame, putting them in a can, taking them to the lab, right?
Oh, wow.
So it was not a glamorous job, but it did give me the opportunity to be there at night when it's quiet and talk to a lot of the artists where they would explain to me like how their work was done. And it was a great transition from my background, which was journalism and business and, software engineering, into this more artistic field of like, how do you put together those colors to make that thing look like it's, so large or so small or, things like that. So that was my first job as I transitioned. Happily, I worked very hard. And, a few years later, was producing digital effects for the entire movie kind of thing.
Wow. Gosh, like, I guess it's just kind of like, did people recognize your talent and then go, hey, Stephen, we're going to just promote you through the ranks because you're just fantastic? Or was it a case of having to see openings and then apply? Or, did people just scoop you up and take you under their wing?
I would say it's probably hard work. It was probably, I got recognized because I made sure balls didn't drop. Okay. Even if it wasn't my job, if at 4 a.m, there was a shot that wasn't done, I wasn't the person to say, oh, well, my shift's over. Like, sorry, didn't make dailies, out, good luck tomorrow. Yeah. But I would go and talk to the artist and say, hey, do you need another 15 minutes, another half hour? Let me call the lab. Hey, listen, guys, tonight we're going to be a little bit late. Can I drop off one roll that's at 5 a.m. instead of 4 a.m. and can you still get it in? And, you do stuff like that where it's clear you're focused on the goal and you're willing to work hard. And then people want to bring you on to the next movie. They're like, this worked great, So I think it was a lot of that, a lot of eye on the bigger prize and how can I make sure that the movie gets delivered, even if my role right now is a very lowly role,
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, when you watch the credits roll at the end of a movie, some people are so surprised at how many people are involved in making the thing.
And I often produce those credits. Like as I grow up. So we produced the credits for like Seven, if you know the David Fincher movie Seven.
Yeah. Yeah.
The main and end title credits were completely custom designed. I produced that. It was kind of fun.
Oh, really? How cool is that? Because it was all kind of like different and arty and jagged. And yeah.
Crazy. We took, at one point, around 2, 3 in the morning, we took the interpositive of that sequence and stood in the middle of Vine Street, just above Sunset. Mm-hmm. And our editor held his foot down on one end of it, and we just let the roll go down Vine past Sunset towards Fountain, just to like mess up the negative, just to make, I'm sorry, the interpositive, just to add scratches and weird things to it. So when you watched it, it felt like organically like messed up. It didn't feel like digitally like they went in and created fake grain or fake scratches. No, those are real scratches of cars driving over it, you know?
Yeah.
And then you had to like wind it all up quickly before it got destroyed completely. So it was, you know, it was fun doing some titles, yeah.
I bet it was. So you've done the design and the digital effects thing, and then you've done the journalism as well. But then you're like a really creative producer as well. Like, did you ever think about, I don't know, performing or doing anything kind of like creative with your hands or painting, or are you into those sides of things as well?
No, I'll tell you, I went to USC because they had seen me. I did a TV show in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore market, right? It was a news show. And it was all, the hook of it was teenagers doing a live news show about, news issues that would be interesting to youth, right? So we were the top rated youth show in the D.C., Baltimore market. That is how USC heard about me and recruited me to come to USC on the West Coast, right? Because they said, we have this great journalism school if you want to be a journalist. That was as close as I ever came to being on camera. Because by the time I started working like really in the business for real, and you see what real talent some of these artists have, the costumers, the production designers, the actors, I realized I'm not an artist like that. I love working around talented people and helping to make art. Mm-hmm. But my talent, I think, is really in bringing people together around a vision and saying, hey, how do we execute this? How do you bring the great stuff out of other people and present it to the world? That is really my talent, more than being an artist of some sort.
Mm-hmm. But that is a huge skill in itself, isn't it? And
I love it.
And the people at the top have to be respected and respectful of the people that they're kind of in charge of. And I guess when you became the VPs of all the movie houses and everything, I guess people, and I'm not sure whether you would know or not, but I'm sure they enjoyed the fact that you'd worked your way through the ranks and you knew how different areas and how different departments worked. And so they probably appreciated that because you had an understanding of how it worked.
Yeah, there's a level of respect that it's not like you're a Nepo baby whose father bought the studio and suddenly you're running a film studio, right? You actually worked your way up from the bottom.
Yeah.
And you know how many of these jobs are done. I'll tell you, when I was working with Jim Cameron, with David Fincher, they are difficult people to work for because they're perfectionists. They have very high standard, like nothing slides by, but they have your respect because they actually understand what they're asking for. Like when Jim Cameron talks to you about the color timing of a transition, he knows intimately well how sophisticated the thing is that he's asking for. He's not just going like, the whole thing should be bluer, but not too blue, make sure it doesn't get, purple at the end. He understands that really well. And whether he delivers it in a kind way or a not so kind way, debatable. But what he says comes from knowledge, and that gets respect.
Yeah, for sure. I guess in your position as well as a VP, you have to learn diplomacy, and you've got to be kind of emotionally balanced, haven't you? And not take things personally, because, you could be having an argument every day if you took things so personally, right? It would be a nightmare.
Your career would be very short if you could not handle a lot of different artistic personalities.
I bet. I mean, it's like during your time, let me just look at some of the films that you've worked on. You worked on the Transformers franchise, you worked on the Star Trek franchise, Die Hard, The Wolverine, like massive, like huge smash hit movies. Like, did you...
Let's be clear, on movies of that scale, $100, $200, $300 million movies, there are an army of people who make them. So I would like to claim some credit for some of them along the way, but I'll tell you, the vast scale of how they're made make them a collaborative group effort.
Yes.
And you learn a lot, like by being around, like for example, Alex Kurtzman, Bob Orsi, I was an executive vice president for them at DreamWorks, right? And for being around them, you absorb a lot because they're fantastic writers. really, really bright guys who study their craft. And sometimes you collaborate with them on ideas, or they bounce stuff off you and all that. But ultimately, they are the writers of the franchise. It is Michael Bay is the director of it, so you learn how to deal with a lot of personalities on a lot of levels on movies like that. It's not like doing indie film where it's just like, hey, we have $2 million. It's like the five of us making this thing.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. However you're consuming this podcast, please consider subscribing, liking, and leaving us a 5-star review, as this helps us to reach a wider audience. Your support is very much appreciated. Now back to the show. When you're working on projects that huge, obviously there's massive pressure, and we've already talked about you having to be a diplomat. When the movies are successful, do you get a chance to go, well done at us, high-fiving everyone, have a little sit down and relax?
Yeah.
Oh, good, because I was wondering if there was just like, okay, well done, and now let's move on to the next hit. So is it not like that there isn't pressure to do...
It's a little of both. If you're working on the production, then it is like a freelance career. You're working on a movie intensively for 2 months to 3 years or something, like depending on the film. And then you have to move on to another film. It's like a freelance sort of gig that you serially are looking for the next movie. Sometimes you move on to the next movie with the crew that you did the last one, like you all go on together, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of these projects, even if you're part of a studio or part of a company that makes them, you usually take a moment at the end of one to sort of go, oh, that was a grueling 9 months, but like, oh, the premiere was fun, and that sort of thing. Like when I was running Centropolis Effects, right? We did the effects. Basically pulled together the team. We did Independence Day visual effects, and we did Godzilla together. Like at the end of Godzilla, I took the whole company to New York, like 82 people. We all flew to New York for the premiere at Madison Square Garden. Super fun, not cheap to fly 82 people there, put them up in a hotel, give them per diems, but they worked really, really hard. And it was a fun way to end the process and go, okay, that's done. We delivered it,
Yeah, absolutely. And Independence Day won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, didn't it?
It did, which let's not kid ourselves. I would not have been able to raise $15 million for Godzilla for the Centropolis Effects Company if we hadn't just won the Academy Award for the last movie.
Got you.
That gives you some credibility on the street.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't say, your team's won an Oscar anyway. Here's $2 million. But how does that feel? Like, first of all, how do you find out that you and your team have been nominated for an Oscar? Like, who calls you up? Who emails you?
Here's something that people don't necessarily realize about the Academy Awards, which is for those craft categories, music, visual effects, costumes, the way they work is there is a branch of the Academy where the members are specialized, and they actually vote and choose the films that will be on the final ballot. So if you are on the visual effects final ballot, it's because people who really know visual effects in the Academy said, of the X number of movies, here are the 3 or 5 that deserve consideration, right? Mm-hmm. Now, for the actual Academy Award, the final round, that is voted on by the entire Academy. So when you get notification saying, hey, you're going to be considered for this, generally there's a night where all of the films that want to be nominated will showcase, like a 5-10 minute reel of their work. So you go to the Academy with all the other competing films. Each of you gets on stage from them and goes, here are the highlights of our movie. Here are the best visual effects in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I can't remember now. And, based upon that, everyone fills out their ballots and they choose the ones that go to the final Academy. Why is this important? I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. Because what it means is that the selection of the nominated films is done by experts. Mm-hmm. The people who vote on best costume, who are going to be nominated, those are the costumers that may have won an Academy Award before, they worked in the business. But when it goes to the final voting, who will win the Oscar of these top 3-5 films, right? Mm-hmm. It's often very much a popularity contest, which people don't realize. So, for example, the year that we were up, there were other films that were very accomplished in visual effects. But we won the popular vote, kind of. It was like people really loved Independence Day. So in the Academy, we won, even though you could easily say one of the other two films was more technically, impressive.
Right.
So you never know how it's going to go in the end, because it's like experts choose the short list, but then the main population of the Academy chooses the winner.
I've got
Does that
you.
make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're getting down to the nitty gritty of the technicality of things, us just kind of as a layman, just as a regular viewer, would we be able to go, oh, right, that we can see why, that one was better and why that one wasn't better? Or would you have to be an expert to be like, I could see the seam.
I would say there is so much available now on the internet that even lay people have the opportunity, if they want to understand, to really refine their eye. Like maybe 20 years ago, to understand why this costumer was more talented than that costume, or this visual effects was more complex than that visual effects, it was kind of hard to know. But now, honestly, if you wanted to find out, people make really amazing content on YouTube and stuff where you can go, oh, wow, I see that movie at a higher resolution now, that I understand how the sound design put me in space or put me in the past, or that sort of thing. So I'd say, yeah, it's changed a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's developed so much, hasn't it? And the introduction of AI into the technical side of things. Are you a fan of it, or do you think that some of the kind of skills of the people in the digital effects departments and the music departments and things like that, do you think the skills are being taken away, or is it a good thing? Is it augmenting the craft?
Let me say this. When people right now are talking about AI, generally what they're talking about is large language models, that sort of generative thing. They're not really talking about machine learning, deep learning, like other branches of AI. So they're talking about AI that looks at the past and says, okay, I've read everything you've ever written, you humans, I've watched every video you've ever made, you humans, right? And then simply says, here's more of that same pattern.
Yes.
You guys always say this word after that word, or you guys always like images that look like this. So LLMs, or generative AI in many ways, is let me look to the past and then drag that into the present. Now, you and I both know there are many TV shows we've seen, movies we've watched, where it feels like the writers kind of did the same thing. You're like, oh, that was the scene from Taken. They just redid it with the gender swap. Oh, that was the scene from, Notting Hill, whatever. They just redid it. So there are a lot of writers and directors that are kind of operating that way, where they're like, hey, man, this is sort of what it should be.
Yeah.
There are some that do move the craft forward, that change the art form. And that's when you look to the future and you say, what's interesting to do next, as opposed to what do people expect from what was done before? So AI, as you ask the question, and I get this often the last year, I think is great for some kinds of work, and it's not threatening and it's going to replace you, unless all that you do is you copy the past, in which case, up your game, man.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, we were watching in the UK. We've got a program called Question Time, and the whole topic of the whole thing was AI, and they had politicians on there and people who run like huge tech companies and stuff, and they were talking about that. And there was one gentleman in the audience. He was like, "We're only talking about the negatives of AI. Like, what about the positives, the benefits of the whole thing?" You think, well,
which there are.
Yeah.
Which there are. Yeah.
For sure, like you said, if you think about how we can use it to push ourselves forward, then that's really, really positive, rather than, oh, I'm going to be obsolete. That's not necessarily the case, for sure. Thinking about your time as a VP, when you were saying that it's really intense, right? How does that affect you kind of as a person and with your family life and your personal life? Like, do you have time to kind of sit, relax, take breaks when you need to take breaks, or is it go until the project's done and then you can just collapse at the end? How does it affect your family?
I'll tell you this, I am very happily the father of a 7-month-old son right now, right?
Oh, congratulations.
Best thing that I've done in my life. And I did not have a child while I was in film. That was a very deliberate choice, saying like, I don't know how my selfish little lifestyle works with having kids. When you go off on location for 6 months and you're shooting in Australia and your wife has a job here, and like I'd never really understood how to do that math, or even when your friend calls you up and says, "Oh, dude, my friend dropped out of the Toronto Festival. Do you want to come to Toronto this weekend? We'll all go to the film festival together." Hard to do when you've got a 7-month-old, right? And I'm like, yeah, oh, cool. So it was awesome during my film days to be single, to be very unattached, and live very selfishly, to be blunt.
Okay.
However, now, I run a focus website, a flow state website that helps writers and, creatives create great stuff. And I run this from Austin, Texas, and I can be here. And I have a son, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm going to go see him in a couple hours, and it's just awesome. I can't wait to pick him up from preschool. So, yeah, it is something where I didn't have the ability. I didn't see that I had the ability to be a good dad in my film days. No.
Right. Okay. Which is actually quite a nice, conscious decision to make, so that you don't have the thing, when they're 18, oh, Dad, you were never around,
Right.
Or,
yeah. That's not an interesting thing for me to be like the absent dad. And I'm very happy. I spend a bunch of time every day with my son. He knows he's loved. He knows he's, safe. He's in an environment where he sees the same people every day. There's no, I knew my nanny better than my dad. No, man, I know my dad better than my nanny.
I'm really loving that. That is so good. Yeah, because so many people put work before family, and they're going, but I'm working really hard for the family. And then you realize 10 years have passed and you barely know them. And that's not a good look at all, is it?
That is, again, returning to this theme of luck. I am fortunate that the way my life is unfolding, I'm in a place in my life where I can run a company from home. And I have been successful enough that, I'm not Elon Musk or something, but I can actually dictate how I work, and if that part of that is, hey, you know what? At 5:00, I'm picking up my kid and we're going to go spend a couple hours together. No one can tell me no.
There you go.
Love that.
You're your own boss. That's like the holy grail, isn't it? Oh, there is no one to tell me what to do. Oh.
That's pretty great. No way could I have done this back in Fox, DreamWorks, Sony days. Like, no, it would be very different. And Absolutely. I was also way more stressed out. Like, I did not take the time. In the past 10 years, I've spent a bunch of time sharing knowledge about flow states, talking about how to have healthy productivity. Like, that would never have flown back in my film days. You're continually having to read the next thing, go to the next meeting, do the next meet and greet or screening or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So is that part of the reason why you founded the Sukha company? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, Sukha. Yeah, Sukha.
Sukha. Is that part of the reason why you founded it?
You know what's funny? So Sukha is a flow state app. And I don't know, have you ever experienced a flow state? Have you ever been in the zone? I
have a couple of times through my singing and through my acting as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I had not experienced a flow state until a few years ago, after college, like long after college. And I was on a flight going to San Francisco, and there was a meeting the next day where I wanted to mock up some ideas and show it to my team and see if people liked it, in which case would build this feature, right? Mm-hmm. Got on the flight. The captain was like, oh, hey, the Wi-Fi's out. Sorry, see you at SFO. Mm-hmm. So I started working. About 15 minutes later, we were descending. And I thought, oh, we must be descending, at an airport nearby here to change the plane, or, something's wrong with the plane. Mm-hmm. In reality, over 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by, and I had no concept of that. Wow. So when we landed, my designs were done. I had mentally prepared myself for, okay, you know what? Get to the hotel, grab a sandwich in the lobby, go up to the room, work on these until I pass out, show the designs tomorrow. And in reality, I could go have dinner with a friend of mine. I called a friend. I was like, hey, I have a free night. And we were talking. He said, oh, that thing, that weird state you're talking about, how magical it was. You got all this work done. You feel great. He's like, that was a flow state. You just don't know what that is, do you? I was like, I've never actually heard of that. And that was a really big education for me. So I was working with a buddy to start a company around this. And one of the things that has been really interesting in my life is I've worked with some really high performers. I work with people whose names from writing and directing big movies, engineers and designers who have made apps that you use. Mm-hmm. And there are patterns. The ones that are happy and healthy and high perform, they have their own versions of flow state practices.
Right.
And I was like, why doesn't someone make a really easy website with the tools you need to get into a flow state? And there are all these ways of saying like, well, music really helps. So you can get this music app. And then if you want a timer, run this timer app. And you want a task manager. And you can have like 5 different apps running. And I'm lazy. I'm not going to, when I sit down to write something, open 5 apps and hit play on all of them. I was like, you know what I would want? I just want a website where I hit the play button, big play button sent to the screen, and it just helps me get into flow. And that's what we built. That's where Sukha came from. It's just this sense of like, what is the easiest way for me to access that state where I can get more done in less time, feel energized, stop picking up my phone, stop opening random websites and getting distracted, and just do the thing. And I credit a lot of the writers and directors that I've worked with for letting me observe their process and see how they did this. It's repeatable. It's not a secret. It's just no one had put it together really well before.
Yeah. I mean, can anyone reach flow state?
Pretty much. I think unless you have some, I'm not a medical doctor. There are some conditions where it's very hard to focus, and I don't want to speak to stuff that I'm not qualified to speak about, right? But for the general population, you have the opportunity to work this way. And I know there's a portion of your audience that is trained in flow states and they're magical and they're killing it, right? There's probably another portion that's kind of wondering what we're talking about. They're like, what is a flow state? Would it be fair to talk for 30 seconds about what this thing is?
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So there was a Hungarian-American psychologist, this guy, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and this is probably like 40 years ago. He had a thesis. He said, when you talk to really high performers in different disciplines, like writers, athletes, scientists, inventors, and you talk to them about the concentrated state where they do the thing that makes them famous, right? That we all know them for. It's weird how they talk about it in very similar ways, even though what they do for a living is very different. And he's like, there's got to be something there. And he went off, did the research for all of us, did the interviews, and he wrote a book at the end of it called Flow. It is the seminal work on this. It's why we call it a flow state. And he said the coolest thing. I love this. He said, I chose this word flow because many of the people with whom I spoke have their word. When I'm in the zone. Yeah. When the muses are singing to me. But he said, we are all on the river, paddling to move ourselves forward. And if we align our boat with the current, it carries us. It magnifies our efforts. And that's why I love this concept of flow. It is aligning your boat with the current of your brain. And he said, the high performers that are in my book, they're people who just figured this out and how to do it repeatably. So they know when they're in a flow state. So let them call it whatever they want. Michael Jordan with his famous quote about, when I'm in the zone, it's just me and the ball. Or Einstein talking about his thought experiments, or Picasso talking about the muses, or that sort of thing. Like, call it whatever you want. But that's what I called it. And personally, I was like, that's a great way to express that state that I was in. And Mihai wrote, he said, here are the characteristics. You lose track of time. You're not staring at the clock wondering when lunch is. You just get into it. He said, you lose yourself in the work. Like, you don't have a sense of like yourself versus the work. You kind of like become one with it, and you do your best work in a shorter amount of time, and distractions fall away. Like, you're not continuing going, I should check Facebook or Insta or TikTok or my WhatsApp, whatever. Like, you're not really interested in that because you're doing really cool work. And he said at the end of it, you can feel a sense of uplift or of joy as opposed to depletion. He said that's really remarkable when you consider you've done something really impressive. And normally you think, oh my God, I'm so tired, I have to go take a nap. But instead you feel like, I feel great, I'm gonna go get a sandwich or something. Like that thing that he described, I wish someone had told me in college, hey man, there are some really easy techniques with music, with distraction blocking, with focus, where you can be in that state. My college years would have been different if someone had clued me in and gone, hey man, this is how to do it. Or given me Sukha, give me like, here's a website that does it for you. But no one did. It was years later that I was like, that was magic. My friend's like, not magic, it's a flow state, idiot.
And then you came up with it, and perfect, because I checked out the site as well. It's very calming, and
really?
there's like little. It really is, and I thought, wow, that's so interesting, because people kind of just don't feel like almost. At times when there's a task that they have to get their heads down and get it done, and I give myself 2 hours to get loads of stuff.
That face right there. Yeah.
Exactly, that exact face. But it's really comic, and then there's like little prompts as to whether checking your emails or checking your social media is going to be benefit and serve you right now, and then it's not telling you off. It's kind of just going.
I'm so grateful you took the time to look at that. Yeah, you know what I was thinking. It's funny. I rarely talk about this. So, what I was thinking is, in real life, what would help me, right? Because I know I get distracted and I know I procrastinate. Straight up, right. We're all human. These are problems I have. And I thought, like when I was in study hall in college at USC, yeah, we would go to the library and there were big, communal tables, and you'd sit there and study for finals or do whatever. And it was pretty effective. And I thought, if I were in study hall and I picked up my phone, my friend sitting next to me would probably tap me on the shoulder and be like, Stephen, like, is that helping you? Like, we got to get ready. And that's all I would really need. That a polite little like, hey, Stephen, like, do you want to be on your phone? I'm like, no, you're totally right. I don't want to be, right? Yeah. Or if I was opening if I opened something on my computer and my friend was just like, hey man, I see you're on Facebook. Is that helping? And I'd be like, oh, no. You know what? Thank you. It's not. And that's how we designed Sukha, just to be like a little friend where you pick up your phone and it says, I see you on your phone. Like, is WhatsApp helping you? Like, I see you open, YouTube. Is that helping you? And yes. It treats you like an adult, because I noticed a lot of the distraction blockers feel like they punish you. They feel so negative. They're like, I'm locking your computer now. We have locked you out from this. Oh, you have 6 minutes before your lock expires. And I was like, I'm not a 4-year-old with the candy jar.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So thank you for trying it. Yeah, that's how we wanted to build it. Like, you had a friend sitting next to you, just like, hey.
Yeah, for sure. It's really cool. I mean, I think with the flow, I've got another question that I'm trying not to forget. When you're in that kind of flow state, mm-hmm. it's almost transcendent, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's that, because I practice transcendental meditation. And,
oh wow! Okay, yeah. So you're ahead of me. I haven't really gotten into TM yet, but some friends are trying to lead me into it.
Right. Okay. It's really good. Like. Yeah. My head got much quieter once the first day I learned.
I love that. But, my wife practices.
Oh, really?
So I know it's going to happen to me. I'm just resisting. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Because I tried like sitting there saying for like an hour, and I was like, I'm such a fidget. So like 20 minutes is good. But after the meditation, sometimes it's like you feel energized, and. Yeah. It depends. But like once I've been in flow, once I've done a performance, I'm like, oh, okay, let's go in and do something else. Like you said, it's like, oh, where did the time go? Completely. Like I did like 2 whole scenes, and I don't know. Right? I definitely said my lines.
I have a question for you. So
okay, go.
If you suppose you're writing or working on something on your computer, what are the things that distract you? What pull you out where you're like, oh man, I wasted 20 minutes? What are the things?
Do you know what it is? Responding to texts. Yeah. Because I have a thing about, someone's messaged me, so I've got to get back to them like straight away.
Right.
And it might not even be that important, but I'm like, but they messaged, so I have to get straight back.
I feel the same way. I got you on that one. Yeah. Yep. That was a big one.
So there's that.
And I have another question for you. When you have... when you've had those moments where you've dropped into flow, you're like, oh man, I'm in it right now. Mm-hmm. How long does it take you to get to that point? Because there's research about dropping into flow takes X number of minutes usually. What is it like for you, the process of getting there?
Do you know what? When I'm performing, I have no clue that I'm in it.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
I have no clue. It's only afterwards I'm like, hang on a second. When I'm like, come back off to say I'm doing a theatre play or a stage play, or the director says cut or something, I'm like, okay, I'm back. Because I'm not one of those method actors who's kind of like, I'm going to be the character 24 hours a day. I'm not like that. I can get immediately
Thank
into
God
it.
for Darren. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. Sorry, sorry, but I was talking about you. Sorry, but it's for me. It's quick. It's really quick.
Wow. Okay.
Because I can drop in pretty quickly, but maybe that's because I've been doing it before but didn't realise I was doing it. I'm asking you that now as an expert.
No, that makes a ton of sense because a lot of the research says that when you decide, like, I'm going to, get into the zone, it takes like 15 to 23 minutes for your brain, like your prefrontal cortex to sort of shut down. That sense of like you're watching yourself goes away and you're kind of immersed in, right? And it is true that when it becomes a practice, like you've done this enough, that becomes much more smooth and much faster, Because one of the things we always tell new people when they come to Sukha is, listen, this is a practice. Like, this is not, you sign up, hit play, listen to the music for 60 seconds, go, oh, okay, I don't feel like I'm in flow, I'm gone. Like, you actually have to bring something to work on so you have that 20, 30 minutes to drop in, because that's when you have the aha moment of like, oh, wow, this was different than other ways, I've worked. I want them to have that feeling I had on the airplane of like, what just happened? So it does become a muscle like that you've developed, but it means doing it a couple times a week. Like, I'll tell you, there are a few writers with whom I've worked that very clearly set aside their flow time. And they're like, whatever it may be, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to noon, or this is when I do X, Y, Z. And it is just like a great athlete saying, these are the times I practice. Like, it is a regular practice for me. And this is how I stay at the top of my tennis game, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So that, I think, is it's wonderful for you that you have that practice. And that's something that I encourage people to do, is to say, set aside a regular time and treat it, as you would like a workout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also, I guess, because you're saying it's practice, so people come onto the website, sign in, they get their 15 minutes to kind of sink down into it. Yep. Do people find it easy to maintain once they've got into the routine, or do people pop out and go, oh no, I came out of flow and I've got to get back in?
I'll tell you something, speaking now as a founder of a website, something that's very interesting I noticed in our metrics is that people who've heard about it, because almost all the people who come have heard about it from friends. Someone will be like, oh, hey, you should try this thing, or it's all word of mouth. So people who come first time, if they do their first session, because we give a couple days for free, just try it, see if you like it, right? If they do their first session and it's less than 20 minutes, they will never return, like 0%.
Really?
And I understand that because you do it for 5-10 minutes and it's like, oh, it played some music and had my phone blocked and, oh, okay, fine. But people who do it for more than 30 minutes invariably sign up. They become members because they get into that aha state where they're like, oh, wow, this is different, And it's almost like, I don't know, if you ever go to the Taj Mahal in India, it's enclosed in a huge, like, I think it's red brick or sandstone like wall, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a portion of, like, you bought your ticket to see the Taj Mahal and you're walking to go see it. And all you see is a sandstone wall. If you turned around at that point, you'd be like, yeah, I went, it just seems like a lot of red sandstone. I don't really get it. Mm-hmm. And then once you get through that gate at the end of the reflecting pool and you see the Taj Mahal, you're like, oh, that's why people travel from all over the world to come here. But if you don't do that 10, 15-minute walk, you're like, it's red sandstone. Who cares? There's just a red wall in Agra. Who cares, So that's what I've noticed is the people who come and they say, hey, I actually have something to do. It could even be, I have to pay my bills. I've set aside an hour to pay all my monthly bills or return all my emails. They sign up. They're like, this is magic.
Now, this would be a huge amount of research, right, I guess.
Yeah,
but
tell me.
I wonder are there different personality types that are more kind of like, that would get into the flow state or would be more believing of this, that could actually work for them?
Yeah. Big thing for creators, for athletes. Right. You often hear athletes are being in the zone, about that sort of like their mind is focused in a certain way. I know with Sukha, the 3 biggest groups of members are writers, designers, and engineers. Because they're all creating something. They're creating code, they're creating blogs and novels, they're creating designs and websites. So they that personality type that wants to go and create, super popular with flow states, popular with Sukha. 0% popular with like sales reps that are just continually on Zoom, just selling things, like any kind of like business development, sales, product management. If you are on Zooms most of the day, if you're on the phone most of the day, you're not going to be in flow. Your job is just to talk to people, and you should do that. If you're in the C-suite, like how many founder friends I have that know what I do and like, oh my God, Stephen, I need that. Can you give me a free membership? Oh, and never use it.
Right.
Because their entire day's meetings. There is no flow time. Right.
Okay.
So that is the thing. For flow, it is big with athletes, big with creators.
It's amazing, isn't it? You know, I'm sorry, so many questions, but that's why we're here. Like you were saying about feeling energized afterwards, do people... Is it something that you potentially have to do whilst you're wanting to be creative? Can you do it... Oh my, sorry, this is a horrible question because I'm trying to think of it in my mind as I'm saying it. Can you use it to come down from something? Like say, sorry, go on.
Let's talk about that because I have a sense of where you were going with that. Mm-hmm. When Mihai wrote about this, he said, there are some conditions precedent that seem to encourage flow or discourage, right?
Yeah.
He said, I noticed with all the people, that he met with and interviewed that experience flow states, they don't do it in random occasions. Like he said, you have to believe the thing you're doing is meaningful. I didn't see anyone get into flow and they're just randomly like vacuuming the floors or something. So you have to believe the task that you're setting out to do is meaningful. You have to have skills that apply. Mm-hmm. So that old joke about, Michael Jordan painting is not going to be in flow and Picasso throwing a basketball, not going to get into flow, right?
Yeah.
And he said, you have to be doing it at a level that challenges you. These are some of the things that he noticed. It's very common with people getting in a flow state, like they're doing something they think is meaningful, they have skills, they're being challenged, it's keeping them on their toes and keeping them engaged. And so for that reason, when you ask about like, can you use it to come down? If you're coming down, you may already have done the meaningful thing, like you're on the back side of the activity, as opposed to going into it when your brain's like, okay, here we go. It's
so interesting. I say that every episode, don't I, Theron? It's so interesting, Stephen. This is it. So the name Sukha, what does it mean and how did you come up with it?
Oh, that is actually a story very close to my heart. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Sukha means happiness. It is a Sanskrit word for the happiness you feel when you are in your lane doing what you're meant to do. Like you're good at it, you can do it with ease. You're in control of your day. Mm-hmm. And I actually didn't come up with it myself. So Laura, wife, mother of our little son, she and I met in yoga. I married the girl in New York that was on the yoga mat to my left. We started 10, 11 years ago. And so we have a daily yoga practice. Why is this important? I'll tell you. There was an early version of this where we had, beta members and people testing it out and we were debugging it. And we had a working title and I knew we needed a great name for it, something memorable, something that had SEO, capabilities. And I did that brainstorming exercise of like, write down all the words and then write down all the related words. And that thing we do. And I've got to be honest, like every word on there I hated. It was so obvious and like no one wants to use Flow State App 4, Distraction Blocker 19. It's just awful stuff, right? So Laura and I were getting married and, you do a lot of yoga together. For your honeymoon, you go to Bali. We're going to go do yoga on the beach and be a cute little married couple, right? Yeah. We're flying to Bali. And I was talking to Laura and she's like, what's on your mind? I said, I feel so much respect for people who think to name their company something super meaningful. Like Nike, Winged Goddess of Victory. Like what a cool name. You didn't call it like shoe company. It's not like called like, Pacific Northwest Shoe Company, right? Or like Amazon. Amazon was not called like online bookstore. It was just a cool, powerful kind of word. I was like, I have been struggling to find something for our little app and failing. And Laura said this, she's also very wise, even though she's kind of crazy and fun. She's also very wise. She said, listen, The next 2 weeks, no one from the office is going to bug you. They know we're on our honeymoon. Maybe in that time, something bubbles up out of your unconscious, like some cool word while we're on the beach, and you'll just go, oh, that's the name, right? So I said, okay. So we got to the hotel in Bali, and I said to her, I heard you on the flight. That's actually brilliant. Maybe that's what happens. I think what would seed my imagination is, do you mind if I talk to maybe 2 or 3 of our beta members today, just 5 minutes, and just ask them, what's your favorite part of what we're doing? And maybe that'll grow into some cool word over the next 2 weeks. She's like, I'm going to the pool, but I will see you at dinner. Enjoy your Zoom, right? So I put in the group chat, who has time to talk? 3 people said yes. So I was going to my wrap up for the third person, this guy. It was like 8 minutes in, and I just said, listen, it's been so helpful. I asked him, like, what's your favorite feature? Do you love the little assistant that tells you to stay off your phone? Do you love the music? Do you love the whatever it is, right? And I said, it's been 8 minutes. I want to respect your calendar. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, Stephen, you ask the wrong questions. And I was like, okay, guy that I do not know that well, I'm curious. Like, what was the right secret question I should have asked? And he laughed and he said, you should have asked me why I pay you. And I was like, it's less than $1 a day. Like we all, I don't collect a paycheck from this. Neither does Tony, my partner. We just create it because we think the world needs it more than it needs like Instagram and TikTok and, Polymarket. And so I was like, okay, so I'll take the bait. Why do you pay me? Like, what's up? He said, well, the last year I found I have 2 kinds of days. At 3 o'clock, I'm playing with my kids. They're currently 2 and 4. Mm-hmm. Or at 6 o'clock, I'm like, where did the day go? I was busy all day. I didn't get it all done. I'm this frustration. He said, I realized the difference between those 2 days was, did I open your app in the morning and hit play? And I was like, wow, okay. He said, so the reason I pay you is because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I was like, okay, you won that round. That was a way better question answer than anything I was asking.
Yeah. So
I went to dinner with Laura on our first little night, and I told her this. It's like, I spoke to this dude who was more articulate about what I'm doing than I am. And I told the story. He's like, that's really good. You should hire him. Like, you shouldn't do more marketing. He should do it, right? So we're going to bed, and, like cute little honeymooners in our little spa robes, brushing our teeth, Yeah. And Laura looked at me with her mouth full of toothpaste, and she's like, in yoga, we hear all these Sanskrit terms like prana, your life force, and your karma, and your dharma. That dude described to you Sukha, that feeling of like when you're in your lane doing what you're meant to do, you can do it with ease. Like you're in control of your day. She's like, you should call your company the Sukha company, the happiness company. And I looked up on my phone. That website was available for $14, and I bought it.
Like immediately.
And I texted my partner. I was like, we're going to be called the happiness company, the Sukha company. And it was like, great, that's why. And that's really a better expression of what we're doing than anything else, because we're not really about blocking distractions, keeping you off your phone, playing music, timing your work. All those are just the path. Where we want you to get is that feeling of like, oh, I'm in control of what I do. I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
And it's 3 o'clock. I want to play with my kids. Like after this Zoom, I'll be looking forward to the minutes between now and playing with my son. Like that's where my head's at. That's where my heart's at.
That's
so
it.
Yeah, I don't want to stay up all night doing work that I could have done in 3 hours, but I just, dilly-dallied.
This is it, isn't it? It's about making your life easier and like, as you said, staying healthy within your work as well, so that the work doesn't become a chore. And so you're not banging your head against the wall thinking, I've just got to get this done. It's like, actually, I can be happy about it. It's all good. It's all good.
That's why we're called the happiness company. That's ultimately what we want, is not blocking distractions. It is getting you to a place of Sukha where you're like, this feels great. Yeah,
for sure. And it's really nice because you've got a community on the website as well, haven't you, on the app?
We do. I didn't know if we should do that. To be super blunt, I was really mixed on that.
Right, okay. But how have people been receiving it? How have they been getting on and chatting to each other?
When you are making something where you're helping people get into a flow state is generally a private kind of process, right? You sort of get there mentally. Sometimes, like jazz musicians get into a flow state together and they're improvising, but it's a thing. And I thought to myself, I speak to so many of our members, and they're all interesting, cool, creative people. We have this many novelists, this many bloggers, this many screenwriters, this many, like all these interesting people. But what's interesting is no one knew each other. It was almost like everyone would come to the website like they're playing a single player game with no sense that anyone else was playing Pac-Man at the same time, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
thought, would it be cool if they knew about each other and were like, oh yeah, oh, Michelle's here. What are you working on? This sort of thing. So I did, you can tell how I work. I asked a couple of members, hey, who has time to chat? Had a couple of Zooms where I talked about this, and I was speaking to one of our members, a woman, and she's still in there. And I just explained to her, like, okay, do you think this would be the most distracting thing ever, so antithetical to what we're doing? Or would it be nice to have a sense of like other people who are working on something? And she made up my mind. She simply said this to me. She said, Stephen, I can go to the Nike store. I can buy a pair of shoes, left shoe and a right shoe, put them on my feet and run. It works great. But there is a reason 100 million people belong to the Nike Run Club. Because when you run together, it gives you a sense of energy. It's like you're not in it alone. There's a community around you, and it lifts you up. And the days that you need lifting up because you feel like blah on the sofa, and your friends come by, are like, come on, let's go do this. And you do it, and it feels great. And the days one of your friends is on the sofa being like blah, and you're like, come on, it feels even better to lift them up. She's like, you should absolutely do that. And the people who want to have community can use it. And the people who don't just never open that component, right? They just never really see who's in there. And I will tell you this, it is my favorite thing in the morning to open up Sukha and click the little, we call it the coffee shop, where you can just talk to people. Right. Click the coffee shop and see who's done what and who's chatting about what. And, you know, someone finished their book and here's a link to their book they published. You know, and it feels really, really warm. And I know as this grows to millions of people, there will be some spam, there'll be some, you know, weirdos, blah, 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 and you were prepared for that. But at this point, we're at a place where everyone in there is pretty cool and trying to do something with their life. You know, like someone designs a new website, they'll drop it in the chat. They'll be like, hey, anyone wants to see, I just launched my website, and there's the URL, and people will look at it and post notes. And I love that.
It's really great because it's so supportive as well. And, you know, they're like-minded people. And then they you know that you're going to get support, and then you know other people are going to support you, and it's it's really fantastic. But I think probably the energy of it comes from you and your partner, because it's like, well, that's it trickles, it comes down.
You're right. People that come to the group chat, it's not like they're going on Twitter to scream about how they hate some politics, or you know what I mean? People who come to a meditation like flow state app, they generally are nice people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Kind and giving. And as you said, you're not even paying yourself for this thing. You're just...
Yeah, it's funny that I don't collect a paycheck, yeah. But I love it. I mean, I'll tell you, one of my favorite days was, this is last spring, this is about a year ago, I guess. Someone in the group chat posted, this guy, Roy King, you can post once a day something you finished, right? So you can't post 10 things a day about what you finished. But your most important task of the day, you can share it. And he finished his dissertation. And some people in the group chat were like, hey man, that was kind of a big, you know, mic drop. You just sort of like casually posted your finish. And he said, hey, I am a high school assistant vice principal in Missouri, in the center of the United States, right? Like I'm assistant vice principal here at the school. But I've been working on getting my electrical engineering PhD nights and weekends. He said, I've been using Sukha because I get about 60 minutes at night before, you know, the kids and the family stuff and after school, and some time on the weekends. He's like, so I have to be really, you know, concentrate. I can't muck around when I have that 60 minutes. I really need to do my work. So he said, I've been using that. And this was the week I turned it in. But he said, don't get too excited, because I still have to defend it. You know, you have to go in front of a panel and kind of defend your dissertation. Right? So he said, that's like 2 weeks from Monday.
Right.
Fair enough. That weekend, before that 2 weeks from Monday, people in the group chat that I know, I run the platform, I know do not know him. some woman in Spain, some guy in Chile, some woman in Japan. They posted in the group chat just like, hey, we know this is your big Monday. Good luck, Roy King. You got this, Roy. Really nice. And I know they're not friends of his. They're just part of this community of like all running together, like a Nike Run Club, right?
Yeah.
So on Monday, Roy doesn't post anything. Finally, someone posted, has anyone spoken to Roy? Like, did this not go well?
Wow, yeah.
I know. Silence. And nothing from Roy. And Tuesday morning, Roy logged in and posted, you may now call me Dr. King.
Oh, sorry.
And people went nuts. People in the chat were like, oh my God, we're so happy.
Oh.
That is why Tony and I do this.
Yeah.
That is, hey man, you did not give up your life to Mark Zuckerberg or Elon or whoever and just let them monetize you and sell ads and become rich off you.
Yeah.
You said, no, there's something I have to do and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And he did it. And it's amazing. That is why we do it. From a feeling like that where you go, dude, you go, do that thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's mad, isn't it, how many people will just let others suck the life out of them and distract you into this rabbit hole of just scrolling. It's insane, isn't it? You're thinking, what's going on? You've wasted so much time.
Everything is tried to distract you.
Yeah, for sure. So honestly, the Sukha app is just going to be amazing for people. But you have to give us the website now so that people can actually go and find the brilliance.
Oh, sure. It's really simple.
Delivering.
It's obviously the Sukha, TheSukha.co for company, not COM. So it's TheSukha.co, the Sukha company. And it's free for 3 days. Try it. Drop it in the group chat. Say hello. Be like, hey, I'm working on my home state.
Yeah, for sure. Do people just email you and just go, oh my gosh, Stephen, I'm just getting so much done now? Like,
they usually DM me because you can DM people in there and everyone knows like I'm the founder. So I get some nice DMs of people saying, oh, this is so cool, da, da, da. Including like there's one, I don't know, say woman or girl, there's a med student who had been using it and was very honest with me in the DM. She's like, hey, listen, I'm in this country and the price is hard for me as a med student. I'm already accruing all these student loans to go through med school, but it's really helpful. And I gave her like a 95% discount. And I was like, if it's helping you, here you go. Just use it. But it is nice to see that someone found that much value that they were willing to say, hey, listen, I don't want to be awkward, but can you help me? Can you give me a discount so I can keep using this to get my med school degree? I'm like, great. So we have one more nice doctor out there? Yes.
Absolutely. And the thing is as well, not only did you give her a 95% discount, but the fact that she can DM you at all is incredible, because lots of people are so inaccessible, and you just think, well, why can't I just email you and we can just have a chat about whether we can collaborate or whatever it is. But the fact that people can just get in touch with you is just fantastic, as long as they don't bombard you and start stalking you and then going,
so hard. Yeah, the people in the app are generally nice people who are trying to do something with their lives, and that I'm here to support.
I'm so glad to hear that. Well, Stephen, honestly, it's just been brilliant. It's been so fantastic.
Fun. Thank you for having me on. And thank you to whoever's still listening. Thanks for hanging out.
They're definitely still listening. We have very loyal viewers and listeners on here. But no, honestly, it's been great. So you can find out all about the Sukha.co. Go to that website. But also you have your own website as well, where we can find out more about you, don't you?
Pretty much. If you want to reach me through Sukha. That's the easiest way to find me, yeah.
All the way through Sukha. And we can, I've IMDb'd you, I've like
IMDb and LinkedIn me. Yes.
I've been stalking you all over the internet. Go do your research. That's what she says. But honestly, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
It was very gracious.
And telling your wonderful stories. Thank you so much.